Hold up. Just wanted to do another live. Like I said, I'll be going live more often um, than I usually do. We usually, at one point, it was like maybe once a week or once a month or something. But just wanted to like kind of get my perspective on things. I named this one ideology for a specific reason. Um, Specifically because of last week, I had to ask a question about the Olmecs, and I noticed people got real agitated when I was challenging what they were presenting. Um, First thing, when you present information, whoever's presenting the information is supposed to present anything to something to back up what they believe in, because until it's verified, it's not a fact. It's just a belief system. It's as I call this, an ideology. Now, you also have, if you look up a lot of things that I asked, the main thing I said was, do not use the stone heads. Meaning, hey, Peaceful Hill, how you doing? Um, Go outside of what the norm is for the Olmec information. Most of the time, again, people said basically what they said was, "F that, I'm gonna post what I want," and in a way that's being very disrespectful. Meaning, if what most people is gonna present is either a picture or a head or a stone, and don't even really know what that actually represented, that's one of the main reasons why I said do not post the stones. Because if I asked you what did the stones actually represent, most people have no idea how to answer that question. You're saying, it's like, for example, when you go back and just think about it like this, most like statues that you see throughout time, even the statue of Michael Jordan in Chicago is based on admiration, right? You deify an individual based on accomplishments. So when you look at the stone heads of the Olmecs, hey Imani, how you doing? Um, they were created by somebody else. They weren't created by the supposed Africans that came over here during 800, AD. They weren't created by themselves. They were created by individuals who was in admiration or in awe of those individuals. That's why I said don't use that, because all it's doing is just like you're just using what the usual norm is of the facts, or not of the facts, but what is the usual, what people will say, well, this is what makes them black. And I'm saying, or what makes them African, for a better word. And I say, okay, don't use that. Go beyond what everyone else uses, because it allows you to expand your thought process. If you say, okay, well, I'm not using that. Like, for example, me, I'd rather handicap myself. You know what I'm saying? Was it where you might say, hey, how you doing? I'm doing wonderful. I'm feeling a lot better than what I usually am. Thank you for asking, Imani. You're a great person. Um, it's like I would rather me say, you know what, I'm not gonna use the usual um, sources that I usually use. I'm gonna go outside of that because I want to be able to expand. Because my job is to not convert you to think the way I think. It's to get you to think outside of your normal way of thinking. Because it's to motivate you to do further research. And that whole exercise that we were doing last Wednesday, it was Wednesday, it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. My apologies. And it was to get people to, okay, well, if I can't use this, then I'm going to go outside of it and do further research, and I'm going to dig. Because that's what we're supposed to do. Meaning, African people, over millions and millions of years of being on this planet, what we've been able to do is adapt and adjust to whatever situation that we've been in. What we're not doing recently is doing that very well. Like, if something is taken from you, your job is to do whatever you can to say, okay, well, I don't have that no more, so now I'm someone handicapped, so let me find other means to get the same information. And what I'm noticing is, even with the comments, I keep forgetting the brother's name, but his name is usually Chalky White on Instagram. It was like he's kind of laughing at the comments because it's kind of funny, but it's not really funny because it's the typical thing that we do as black people. Is what happens is we become victims of our own ideology, and that's not going to work anymore because most of us have children now. People that I've known over the, I don't have any children. I want some at some point, but a lot of us are doing the same practices that we've been doing in terms of information for years, and we're not evolving. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like if someone says, what makes, prime example, what makes the Olmecs African? If you believe that the Olmecs were African or black or melanated, whatever word you want to use, if this is what you believe in, what is the basis for this belief? And again, everyone usually uses the statues, stone heads, boom, that's all I'm gonna use. And if I say you can't use that, what other information do you have? It is not up to you to get an attitude or get mad at me. It's your job to say, okay, well, look, I can't use that, so let me do it this way. Let me go out of my way to find this information. Let me do research outside of it, because what happens is, what I notice is that we're very loyal to what we've learned from different people. Like, for example, one guy was like, you're whitewashed. I'm like, bro, I'm the least whitewashed African you ever meet in your life. Don't use that excuse on me. All I'm asking you to do is use your brain. That's all I'm asking you to do. But then it also shows how a lot of us are we're very loyal to what we believe in. People leave, Christianity and Islam, and they make the next step another religion anyway. Motherfuckers be Hebrew Israelite, and the next thing you know, you've made something that we picked up at some point in time your religion. And that's why I asked, okay, if you believe in, I'm giving you a prime example, and I hope the brother listening, no disrespect to the brother, because I don't know him like that, but if you believe that these Africans that were here in the Americas, in Mesoamerica, because if I say Mesoamerica, that dates the period. If you believe that they were Hebrew and you see the Hebrews looking like me or you, what proof do you have? That's why I threw out the language, because everybody has, at some point in time, has spoken a language on this planet. Regardless of what you believe in, we've all spoken a language. So if you say Hebrew, then obviously you believe that they actually spoke the Hebrew language. What proof do you have of this? And he got an attitude, got pretty mad. And I'm saying, why are you getting mad if this is what you believe in? This is what you believe in, then present the information. And it just became this attitude thing, and I just backed off because I'm like, I'm not going to do this with you. Just present the information and we can move forward. And why is what I'm saying important? Because again, most of us have children, but you cannot call yourself a person that's easily able to adapt to information if you are doing the same thing repeatedly. So what that means is that you're cool with passing down that same lazy mentality to your children, because our children are more advanced than we are. Cognitively, you can tell that. You can totally see it. I can see it. Everyone else can see it. So you're willing to still dumb your children down with an ideological thinking, because I've taken anthropology for years. I took the class and I actually majored in it. And one of the main things that I found that they stated, and this is usually white, this is from a white university, but this is the truth. It's very hard for an individual coming from an ideology to come with an objective perspective if you're coming from an ideological background that you're holding dear to yourself. It's very hard to do that. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care if you call yourself Nawapi, and I don't call you Christian, Muslim, Jew, Moorish Science, Hebrew 5%. You're going to challenge whatever I present to you based upon what your foundation is. And part of it is you want to hold your foundation sacred, which means you're defending what you believe in. Prime example, I'm gonna stay on the Olmec thing. If I ask you what makes the Olmecs black or African without using the stoneheads, regardless of what ideological perspective you use, you're going to use that as what? Your basis for answering the question. Because, a brother of mine, Brother Kassim Washington, he said the same thing my father taught, that, brought the rubber plant over here, and, and the word omrek, which was something that the Mayas used to describe the negritos. Now, he didn't say negritos, but that was the word that was used. Because, again, what language did the Mayas speak? They spoke an old form of what? Latin. And that form of Latin is dead at this point. It's a dead language. But they use the term negritos. Okay? And that is a form of proof. That's one form of evidence to support that these Africans that came over here with the rubber plant, because again, the example that my father used was from Uganda. And Uganda, he said, had an abundance of rubber trees in that part of Africa. Now you have other parts of the world with rubber trees, with the rubber plant. You have South America, and you have an abundance in Brazil. Because meaning that a person can say, well, how do you know it was from Africa? It could have came from Brazil. It could have came from South America. How do we know that you're not just using this to make everything in a black favor? You see what I'm saying? You got to understand that ideologies are meant to be challenged. That's why it's just an ideology. Because until you can have some type of facts to back it up, as opposed to just using heads and stones and stuff like that, which at some point now, because you can go on Facebook now and you can see Facebook groups where you have Asians and Tinos. I use the word Tinos instead of using Latino a lot because that's originally what they were. With Facebook groups debating black people on who the Olmecs really were. First of all, the word Olmec is actually a very dated term. Okay? Because it was based on who brought the rubber plant over. That wasn't describing the actual race of people, it was describing what they did. Okay? What described the race of people was, again, the term negritos. Negritos means what? It was speaking on specific group of people that, if you go into the language, that was of black color or African descent. They were the first people that they encountered. You understand what I'm saying? They encountered the negritos, and those Africans taught those Spaniards who came over here. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to learn how to start putting things together. It's not so much that, I want them to be what it is. I'm just quoting exactly what was said. So it doesn't put things in terms of a favorite, because a person can run around and say, well, you're just trying to favor because that's what you are. No, not necessarily. I'm just quoting what they said. Now, what I will do at some point is I'll go back into my posts on Facebook, and based upon my own research, the first gods that the Mayas were worshiping were African gods. The sun, it was a sun god, and this is, if you want to do your own research, you can go back into on my profile, and the god actually starts with an S, and I forgot the name because I haven't posted in a very long time, But the first gods that the Mayas worshiped were not of Taino or European descent. They're of African descent. There was sun. It was a sun god, and this is online. You can look this up yourself. So again, if the Taino or Latina did not have any connection to any African people that were over here, why is one of the main gods African? Why again? I want to say it in a certain way because the way I just said it implies more words. Why is the first gods that these Latinos worshipped African if Africans were never over here prior to enslavement? Because this is a historical fact. I'm trying to remember the name. Saria it's an S. It starts with an S, but it was a sun god that was somewhat related to Amun. That was an ancient Kemet. Okay, and this is again, if you go back and if you look up the elder brother that's in Hidden Colors 2, he did a lot of work under Dr. Van Sertima. Kind of heavy set brother, dark skin with glasses. I forget his name right now. Renoka Rashidi. And it's a picture of him and he's sitting next to an Olmec head that's of Ethiopian descent. And that's also an argumentative point. How was this head found in Ethiopia, the same head that's also found in Mexico? That's a point that needs to be made. If these heads were only of Asian and Taino or Latina descent, how was this head not found in their original origin of country or country of origin, but is found in where? Africa. That's a point that creates what? An inference for an argument. And what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to make us do what? Further research. Now, I just quoted, my first form of quote is my foundation, my father, Dr. York. Now, people will use what? Most people who have this argument, they may not use my father's information. They may use Van Sertima's information. Now, in his book, and this is the truth, he never was like, okay, this is exactly what it is. He was reporting the things that he found, from the coins to the stone heads to different pictures. Our job as people who, regardless of what you want to call yourself, whether you want to call yourself African or Black or Hebrew or more, whatever, if you believe in this as being factual, then it's your job to back up the people you back up with further research, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, this is what it is, and because they said it and it's factual because I say so, and at the foundation of we say so is because we say so, and that's not going to work for children, because children are going to look past you. They're going to be like, well, what makes it right? Just because of what they said? How do I know if I look it up, it could be 100% wrong? That's ideology. That's religion. Religion, as my father taught, you can believe in something, it could be 100% wrong, and you find that out. It's like, okay, I don't know. If you don't know, then why are you quoting something that you don't know that much about? It makes you look really stupid, and you got to get beyond that. We have to be able to start looking at things differently and being critical thinkers. We as African people, and this is not a belief, this is carbon dated, we are African people, we have to start being more critical of how we see things, because it's not going to work if we're teaching our children and they're thinking beyond us, and you're still thinking in an old ideological perspective. It's not going to work anymore. So the whole Olmec question, and I'm going to come with more questions, but I need us as people to not become so emotional, because all it does is it shows the fact that you have too much of a tie to what you believe in, and you're not basing anything on any facts. Because the brother also, and this, again, it's not to knock the brother with what he was doing, but this is what was going on. And it's like, okay, now you're quoting, you have a white source, which is, it's fine. The source is a source. I totally understand. But then it's like, the person saying, this is what I believe, this is where they came from, the people of Ethiopia. And I said, okay, that's fine, but it doesn't really prove anything. It doesn't prove anything at all, because the group that they were pointing at, these American Indians, could have just been people that just resembled what they thought was the people of Ethiopia. And there's no blood tie. If there was no blood tie, there was no DNA tie, there was no carbon dated tie, how do you know that for a fact that these are exactly who the people that are you saying that predate everyone else that were already here? Because the thing is that the argument was we were already here. And I'm saying, okay, then that's another conversation. How do you know that? Because the first argument truly is you have to eliminate that from the Olmec conversation, because the Olmecs were not always over here. They just came over here prior to the Mayas or Aztecs. They were here prior to Mesoamerica. Now, on the other side of it, you have stories that was in, the book They Came Before Columbus by Van Sertima, where they say, what's the brother's name? Abu Bakr II. He came here and he explored. He came over to the Americas. He had a ship, and the ship was big, and had cargo, abundance of cargo that came out of Mali and everything. He was a cousin of Mansa Musa. Okay, and the problem is there's no burial site for him. Now, to support the story, if you believe that this is factual, then you're going to have to, and if you believe what Van Sertima was saying was all wise, right, and exact, then it's your job to investigate what he said. Do your research. Why is it wrong to do research? How are you a coon for doing research? That's really stupid. We got to stop thinking like that, because it makes us look very ignorant, and it makes us look childish, and it shows that we're not willing to actually elevate our information in, because an intelligent individual, when he or she learns information, they adapt and they adjust to new information. That's what makes you an intelligent person. That your ability to adapt to what new information you learn. I was able to do that. I'm going to give you an example. I was able to do that recently when I learned about the Neanderthal information about Caucasians, or what you call white people. That they're only really 2% human being, and this is white science. Oh, I'm saying white scientists. This is what they're saying about their own race of people, their own origin, that whites are not all the way human being, as well as Asians are only 4% human being. And I have mounds of evidence to prove what's being said. That's why I'm constantly posting this on my YouTube page, evidence of what is being said. So if anyone wants to come to debate that, I can give you whichever source you want, whether it's white source or black source. It's up to you. But anyway, what I had to do was, when I found that information, I had to trash the old information about it just being Dravidians who migrated out of Africa and settled into parts of Asia. Okay? And in that parts of Asia, they did what? They degenerated their melanin and became Caucasian. Because there's so much holes in that story that you can't, if you had any form of integrity, you wouldn't be able to teach it. And a lot of us, what we do is we sacrifice intelligence. Rahubat Salim El. What we do is we sacrifice our intelligence for our ideology again. There goes that word. If you truly are a person who adapts to information, you will say, okay, well, this information I've been studying for years, it's not right, it's wrong. That gets rid of ego. And what happens with us is, because in the system of white domination, what keeps us going is our ego. But then at the same time, that ego destroys you, because you're running off of ego, which it becomes just an inflated head and a deflated amount of intelligence. Can't do that forever, because again, our children, If we want to be responsible truthfully for our children's education, we're going to have to adapt to new information ourselves. And we can't be afraid of what we find. What Daddy could say. Peace, Ali, you're right. People are emotionally attached to people and information. Exactly. And that's why we're not moving at the pace that we should as African people, is that we're not adapting. We're refusing to adapt. You know, it's like if a person is like, Jesus is black. And it's like, can you prove Jesus even existed without using the Bible? No. So why do you keep preaching that Jesus is black? Because that's your ideology. That's your religion. Your religion wants Jesus to be real. But if I say, you can't even prove he's real, so why you keep talking about it? The intelligent person will say, well, there's no point in talking about the color of a person if I can't prove he existed. It don't have to be Jesus. It could be Abraham, it could be Moses, it could be Elijah, it could be John the Baptist, it could be John, son of Zebedee. You can't prove that none of these people even existed in the Bible because you have no point of reference. You have no tombs. It talks about where all these people were. There was here in Rome and Jerusalem and Nazarene, and you can't even prove that there was a burial site. So that's crazy. That's the religious mind. I can die tomorrow and I'll be buried and you can find my burial site. That's a fact that I actually existed. But all these other people in the Bible, you can't find not one burial site at all where they say they existed. But there are people who call themselves intelligent that refuse to adapt to that fact. That's us as that. And where does this come from? The whole point of it is, where does that come from? It comes from slavery. Because prior to slavery, prior to our enslavement, which was not just a physical bondage, but a mental and spiritual bondage, we were basically forced to believe in things. You know, because the whole point, as a brother he made a really good point to me. He said the whole point of religion and slavery was to stop African people from rebelling against the slave master, from cutting off heads. You can enslave this group of people from the point of being babies. You can infect not only the children, but the children's children. And the children's children, and here we are right now, still holding on to ideologies that we can't even prove even exist because we don't want to look bad. But a lot of these ideologies are becoming toxic to us. It's not going to work anymore if we want to have children. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, we might as well just keep sending our children to the same, education systems that's allowing policemen to body slam them in their desks. That's not going to work anymore. What's the point of talking about you want to educate your kids, but yet you're allowing your enemy to educate them wrong and you're doing the same thing your enemy doing? So we have to get to that point. So there really is no point in me to go further and further into the whole Olmec argument, even though it's a great argument to have. We have to back up that argument with more information, not so much to prove ourselves to white people or Asian people or Latina, Taino people or whatever, but to ourselves and to our children, because we have to move on to a curriculum for our race. We don't have a set curriculum for our race. That's why we have no problem sending our children to them, because we haven't set a curriculum for our children yet. We have to become those people who are able to be progressive African people and say, this is the curriculum for us as a people. This is our set curriculum, and it is what it is. It's based on facts. It's based on carbon dating. The thing is that you can't get past carbon dating. That was the way Sheikh Anta Diop was able to prove that those of ancient Kemet were African people, black African people specifically. Those of the Old Kingdom and those of pre-dynastic origin, up and down the Nile. So that's what he used. That's the 90 to 95% of what we use to base facts in our science is carbon dating. And I'm glad I was able to take anthropology and to have it as a major at one point in my life, because then that dispels a lot of what we do. We go off of books, and that's not going to work all the time, because those books, again, can be 100% wrong if you don't look up the information. It's pretty easy to do. The problem is because of slavery and because of the education system, which is white dominated and is based on white supremacy, we're very lazy because we're taught to say, whatever, let me just get this piece of paper and I'm done. And that's our problem. We're gonna have to at some point stop letting whatever we read become the ideology. Because we don't need ideology no more if you have a true foundation of facts. That's the thing, is that's what stops us as African people from truly moving forward and progressing, is saying, hey, you know what? This might sound pretty good, but let me do more research on this, and then I could back it up with more facts. Because what if what you're saying is 100% true, but you're using dated information? Because again, the term Olmec or Omrek is a dated term. That's meaning we're gonna at some point have to stop using that term. It's making us look really, really slow. No disrespect to our people, but they use that term, and that's fine. We don't have to, because again, more and more and more and more, we're finding more evidence to prove who we were and where we were. Because again, I'm gonna use this point and I'm gonna leave y'all with this. If the people if the Latinos or Tainos or Mayas or Aztecs never encountered African people that were already here, why is that their first gods were African? Why is that the people they referred to was negritos? And you can look up the term negritos, it means black. They were what? They were describing what they saw. And even in terms of, because a sister brought up the Pyramid of Mexico. And I forget the name, but that pyramid stands as one of the tallest pyramids in the world, right? This is a point I made to a brother of mine, I forget his name, but think about it. Who made damn near every pyramid, if not all the pyramids of the world? African people, right? We use black, we use black. There's pyramids in Africa, there's pyramids in America, there's pyramids in Brazil, there's pyramids in China. Okay? So, and you have pyramids that are replicas of the pyramids in Africa that's in China or Asia. Looks just like them. The capstone may be slightly different, but they literally are built the same exact way. And that's a whole different argument. Now, the next question should be, or at some point will be, if you're telling me that Africans weren't in Asia prior to the Asians you see, the melanin recessive Asians you see now, why is that those pyramids are replicas of the pyramids in Africa? And then you have the other pyramids that we just talked about in Mexico, the pyramid in Mexico. Think about this. Before I go any further, just so I can word it correctly. How many pyramids have Mexicans built? That's on record. That's my question. How many? How many pyramids have Tainos built? How many pyramids have Mayas built? According to facts. Let's just say but let's just say the pyramids of Mexico, for argument's sake, the pyramid of Mexico was built by non-African people. Where else have they built pyramids at? Other than that one. But you go into Africa and you see multiple pyramids, and you see multiple pyramids all over the world that are the replicas of the ones in Africa from the same people. There's replicas of the same pyramids that's in Africa all over the world. So you can make either, well, you want to call it educated guess or inference, that those same pyramids were built by African people. Because that's a fact, that the pyramids of Giza were built by black African people of the Old Kingdom. Of who? Cheops or Khufu. The person who renovated, not built, but renovated. Then you got to realize that those same pyramids of Giza was 10,500 years old. And this is pre-dynastic. And there's an actual carbon dated fact that the people of pre-dynastic Kemet was, again, black African people, even before the Old Kingdom. So again, the question is, if you built it, what other, wonders of the world have you built if you built that one? So you only built one, but yet that one is also very similar to other pyramids that we found that everywhere we went in the world, just like in Australia, the original people there are Aboriginals, right? And a lot of Aboriginals are just as dark as I am. Darker. Pyramids of Giza. Darker black African people. The people of China. These are that are a history of China is, most of it, the further you go back, the darker it is. Pyramids of China. So again, still African people all over building pyramids. That's an inference, not an assumption, not based on anything that I've read. But a lot of this is based on carbonated evidence. So we're going back into Mexico again. So everything else that I build as an African person is tied back to me. But you're going to tell me the one that's in Mexico is not? But you can't show me anywhere else that you built anything. That's a strong argument based on what? An inference that will lead to another argument, but it's a healthy argument, because what happens is those that are trying to prove and trying to wipe out our African existence all over the world won't have anything to back it up on. Their only argument now, if you go in their groups, is to say, well, the Olmec faces are similar to some of the faces in China, some of the Taino Indians. And I say, okay, that's cool. You can do that. But let's go into the structures and artifacts. Let's go into who you worshipped prior to you picking up any form of Christianity. That's when you start putting facts behind what you're saying, as opposed to I challenge what you say and you get an attitude with me. That's not going to work anymore, because people are just going to get tired of having a conversation with you because you're not basing anything on truth at all. You just want to use what you feel is what it is. And at the end of the day, it's not based on nothing. Let's not do that no more. Let's have some integrity about what we learn and what we teach. Then we can actually really move forward with something as a people, and some type of real curriculum for our children, man. Because we can't do that right now. We can't do it with any form of integrity. We can only use, we would only be able to start at a certain point, because a lot of what we're teaching, we don't even have anything to back it up ourselves. It's just really just like whatever it is. Whatever we say it is. So we got to be real with ourselves and really do our research. If we're not going to do my father taught that for years. Don't believe me, check it out. But you don't do that, do you? Do you? Then you get an attitude and you get mad when someone challenges what you believe in, because you don't even have the facts to back it up yourself. It's not going to work. That's all I'm saying. That was the whole point of the exercise. And people, I notice with me, they like to either screenshot what I say and then run to somebody else, because they can't really have the conversation because they don't choose to, or they're afraid of looking bad on the internet. And I'm like, nah, this ain't about that. Let's have a real conversation, man to man, man to woman, or whatever, so we can actually create a curriculum for our children. Because a lot of people are not interested in the future for the children. They're just having ego-based arguments and conversation. Not going to work anymore for people who call themselves progressive. So yes, that's what the whole point of this is: ideology. At some point, we got to move forward from ideology and just deal with facts and deal with things you can present to the table, because it's about our children at the end of the day. So Hotep family, let's move forward in Black Power.